make sure that everyone's happy on a personal level as well, because that's super important. Communication is the big one, and we struggle with it. I'm sure a lot of people struggle with communication. We have our challenges too. Or sometimes when you're in a remote team, you can feel a bit isolated. When you get it right, you can really hire anyone from any part of the world. With IT outsourcing, you have a reliable source of people that you can trust. You can onboard them very quickly. You don't need to view it as outsourcing because they're just a part of your team anyway.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Devico Breakfast Bar. Here we speak with different people involved in the business landscape, share their expertise, delve into the latest tech trends, and explore the ins and outs of IT outsourcing. I'm Oleg Sadikov and I'm excited to have Luca Bernardino, Chief Technology Officer at Plann. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss new episodes. Hi Luca, could you please start by telling us a bit about your journey from your early days of your career to your current role as the CTO?
Hi Oleg, yeah, sure. And thanks for having me on the show. My name's Luca. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Plann. And the journey that I've been on up until now started just after I left school. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, to be honest, as a lot of people probably feel the same way when they leave school. And I sort of got told to get into web design, web development, and I didn't really know what it was. But I managed to find a job at a small web design agency back in London, and I absolutely hated it. I had no idea what I was doing. And it was actually quite tough at the time because it was such a different thing going from school to working with code that I'd never done before. But I stuck at that for 2 years, and I was slowly getting a hang of it, getting a grasp of it. And then I moved to different jobs, working on small websites, agency type stuff back in London. And it was only until I moved to Australia that I sort of got a bit of a shot at working on something bigger when I joined Flight Centre as a web developer, built up my skills. And then my previous job just before Plann, that's when I really started to focus on a lot of like cloud infrastructure, cybersecurity, and then joining Plann, of course. That's when the whole journey as a Chief Technology Officer really took off. And so like now I'm Technology Officer at Plann, look after a team of about 10 or 12 individual developers, and I'm constantly learning every day. So yeah, that's about, in a nutshell, the journey to how I got here over about 15 years or so.
Thank you, Luca, for sharing this brief history. Bootstrapping versus seeking funding is a critical decision for startups. Could you share your experiences and insights into the challenges and advantages of each approach, particularly in the context of building and scaling a global team?
So this is something that I've had to learn a lot about since joining Plann. Our founder, Christy, she started the business and has been bootstrapped from the very beginning up until now. And I always thought as a developer, you join a company, you get to work on cool stuff, and that's all you have to really think about, you know. But I've learned that you can work on very cool projects, but there's a lot of thought that needs to go into it too, because when you're bootstrapped, you have to think about your resourcing, your allocation of time and money, especially when you're funding yourself. You might not have all the funding or all the money that these big companies might have. So day to day, it's challenging because we've got to make sure that we really prioritize what we're working on, what's going to really make a big difference for our customers, what's going to help the business to continue to grow. So we've got to be really careful with how we allocate time and budget and people on different projects. And you mentioned global team, and so it's critically important because our team is global. So we've got to make sure that everyone is working on the right things at the right time, and you can't just talk to them in the office because they're not there. So we've got to make sure that everyone's working on the right stuff. And actually, that's what I spend a lot of my time doing, not just code, but making sure that people are working on the right sorts of things and that we're, as a team, because we're global, working towards the same goals.
How do you overcome barriers such as time zones, cultural differences, and communication preferences to keep everyone aligned and engaged?
Yeah, that's a good question. How do we do that? Well, we make sure that we're constantly communicating with each other for one. So yeah, we have a global team, but for myself, for instance, I work with a lot of developers in different time zones. So I'll make sure that I schedule time to talk with them, not just as a team, but also as individuals on a weekly basis. Make sure that everyone's happy on a personal level as well, because that's super important. It's not just about the work that we do. Communication as a team more broadly, we have weekly team updates and monthly team meetings, so everyone's kept in the loop. And something that our founder, Christy, has done a good job of is making sure that the culture is one of openness. So everyone feels like they're very much involved in the business and across everything that's happening. And it's very transparent. So no one's in the dark as to how the business is performing or what projects we're working on. We make sure that everything's very open, especially because everyone's in different time zones. So everyone feels that they're very much a part of the business. And in that way, we allow people to freely communicate and share how they feel. And I think that's really important, especially when everyone's so remote. So yeah, communication is the big one, and we struggle with it. I'm sure a lot of people struggle with communication. We have our challenges too, because everyone communicates in a different style. Not everyone likes to type in Slack. People need to talk as well. And so making sure that we accommodate each individual whilst also working as part of a team is really important. But yeah, I'd say communication is the main one. From myself personally with my team, I try and talk with everyone on a weekly basis, daily sometimes. And I think broadly across the business, that's how we really try and operate to make sure that everything goes smoothly.
How often do you physically meet?
We just had a very big team catch up in the Philippines with our developers that there. That was the first time actually that we were able to coordinate that part of the team meeting together, and that was super exciting. Weekly, some people live in Sydney, so they meet together in the office. I live in Brisbane, so I'll commute down to Sydney probably every couple of months to meet up with the team there. And we'll often have like quarterly team catch-ups for those who can come, for the team that are spread across Australia. So maybe every quarter we're definitely getting together as a team. And then every year we'll try and do a bigger event so that everyone else is involved as well.
When it comes to fostering a sense of belonging and unity with the global team, what strategies have you found most effective in distinguishing it from a traditional outsourcing model?
We really try and make sure that everyone is fully across the business and involved. So when it comes to, for example, outsourcing or working with remote teammates, no individual hopefully feels left out because they're very much a part of the team. And so even when it comes to outsourcing, it's just an extension of the business. It's just a global team. And these days, because so many people work remotely, we try and view it as just having a global team. But I'd say, in answer to your question, making sure that everyone really feels that they're a part of Plann and that what they're doing matters. And I know a lot of people say that, but the way we try and do it is by building a culture of just being open and friendly. And working at Plann's been amazing because everyone gets on really well. And I think more than just being employees, I think everyone's good friends too. And I think that's really important. You've got to have that friendship because when you're not seeing people face to face on a daily basis, you've got to have an underlying relationship that you can fall back on. Because sometimes miscommunications happen, or sometimes when you're in a remote team, you can feel a bit isolated sometimes. But knowing that we have that culture to fall back on and knowing that everyone feels a part of the team, I think makes a big difference for us at Plann for sure. It's a big advantage, I think, that we do very well at.
How big is your development team?
Currently now we have 10 developers. We're in the process of hiring 2 more, and they're all spread out across different parts of the world. So in Australia, there's 3 of us. In the Philippines, we've got our app team who are amazing. They're in the Ukraine. And we're hiring 2 more developers as well. And hopefully they'll join our Filipino team as well in the next month or two.
Okay. In your opinion, what are the main advantages and disadvantages of IT outsourcing, and how do you navigate these factors to maximize the benefits while mitigating potential risks?
I'd say one of the disadvantages is that there could be a real disconnect and you outsource and you're just hiring a bunch of contractors to do some work and maybe that's okay. But I know for us at Plann, having people that really feel that they're a part of the team is super important. It can very easily go sideways because when everyone's working remotely, feeling isolated, kind of working towards the same goal, but not really. You end up with just people working in isolation, and the team becomes quite disjointed. So that can happen. It can happen very easily. But an advantage we've seen for us as a business is that when you get it right, you can really hire anyone from any part of the world who do great work, and it's a real culture add. So at Plann, we've got people from all sorts of backgrounds and experiences in life, and that really makes the team a great place to be because everyone's got so much to say, so much to add. And we've worked hard to build that culture so that when you do bring someone in, no matter where they are in the world, they feel like they have a home whilst they're working. And so I think one of the advantages is you just get to meet so many people and so many interesting people with different backgrounds and skill sets if you get it right. But I think focusing on the culture and the team relationships is super important. And if you can do that, then outsourcing becomes a great way to grow the business, especially because everyone's remote these days. I think it's a great way forward. Yeah. Gone are the days of working in the office together. I'm sure you experience the same thing, no doubt. And getting it right it's super important. But when you do, it's a real culture add, and it's a great way to work.
Are there specific tasks or projects that could potentially benefit from IT outsourcing in your concrete context?
Yeah, I think sometimes the challenges of hiring someone in-house, it can take a long time. You've got to go through multiple interview processes. There's a probation period. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it does. It's a bit of an unknown. With IT outsourcing, if you have a reliable source of people that you can trust, you can onboard them very quickly. And working with IT outsourcing teams, which we've done in the past, they've joined, started the project, and got up and running very quickly. So I think speed is a great advantage to doing it. And if you can get people on board and they feel happy and a part of the team, then you don't even view it as outsourcing because they're just a part of your team anyway. But I think the major advantage that I've seen at Plann is the speed with which we can onboard people who are very skilled and get them working on the project with the existing team that we have. Do you feel the same way? Have you sort of felt that as well?
Yeah, definitely. Concrete example, do you prefer working with the same IT outsourcing vendor or you prefer to have multiple partners?
We have had multiple partners in the past. It just depends on the projects that we're working on. Development-wise, we've had a lot of success with the teams that we do work with. I find myself personally, when you start working with a lot of businesses, it can add a bit of complexity as well, navigating who's working on what project. And so because we're a relatively small team of 10 developers, I do like to keep things streamlined, and I think across the business we try and keep things as streamlined as possible. But it really does depend on the project that we're working on. And so there are definitely benefits. So for example, now we have an amazing app team based in the Ukraine. But if we do outsource other projects or other pieces of work, depending on what it might be, we might go somewhere else if it's more suitable. But I think the teams that we have, we just love. And the outsourcing that we've done so far has worked really well for us. And so we're very grateful. But yeah, trying to keep it streamlined, I think, is important, depending on who we work with, maybe one or two teams at a time.
The team in Ukraine you're referring to, is it contractors or an outsourced team from a company?
It's an outsourced team, an outsourced company. But for us, I don't think anyone at Plann really thinks of it in that way. It's more just an extension of Plann, which is great. But yes, they are an external company that we work with. And they're amazing, really, really great, and do an amazing job on our app and really help the business out so much. But we love them. Like I said, it's just a part of our global team. And I think maybe we've been a bit fortunate in that regard, but also worked really hard to build that culture up so that it feels that way.
What advice would you give to business leaders considering IT outsourcing as part of their growth strategy based on your own experience?
I would think really focus on building those relationships. It can be so easy to just bring a team in and to get some piece of work done, which obviously is very important. But for the long-term health of the business and as a long-term strategy, if you can build those relationships and build up that culture, you'll end up finding that the team is just a part of your team anyway. And these days, there's been such a shift with remote work that it's important to have that foundation to fall back on, because otherwise you'll end up with an outsourced team that's just working in isolation. And then it can go sideways. And I think that's where IT outsourcing maybe sometimes gets a bit of a negative shade thrown on it, but because it's not done properly. But when it's done properly, you're building a good relationship with the team, with the individuals, then it can work fantastic. You can onboard a team that can get up to speed very quickly. So my advice would be to focus on the people and don't view it as outsourcing, just view it as part of an extension of your own team and work on those relationships and it'll go really well.
What roles are in your development team? Developers, QAs?
Yeah, so at the moment we've got a number of different roles. We have developers and QAs, as you just said. The developers are split up into app development, back-end API development, and then the front-end developer team as well, including myself and another couple of developers. We also focus on the cloud infrastructure and DevOps side of things. So that's a whole other role that we've got going on there. And then that would be for our development team. Those are the four main areas. And then, of course, we interact with the product team as well. But development-wise, you can really split it up into those four components.
Do you do any test automation?
We have test automation as well. Probably not as much as we'd like, but we do. And our QA team in the Ukraine, Rolik, they've done a great job of help setting up a bunch of automations for the regular testing that we do. But we do need to do more automated testing rather, I think. Most teams, I think, would agree to that as well.
Luca, thanks for answering my questions. It was a nice interview. Thanks for joining me today. I'm
My pleasure.
wishing you and Plann great success.
Yeah, thanks, Oleg, and thanks everyone for listening.
If you enjoyed our discussion and want to stay updated on future episodes, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you will not miss on the new latest insights and conversations from the Devico Breakfast Bar. See you in a week.